The following clip is from the North to South Show, live every Monday and Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, where we talk SEC football everything. Now, we'd love to have you out for next show, but for now, hit that like button down below, hit that subscribe button, and enjoy this clip. This Texas A&M and Colorado game, which is very, very interesting because this game is at neither team's stadium. It is actually at a neutral site, but you call this a neutral site, but it's basically home field advantage for Colorado because this game is at Empower Field or Mile High Stadium, whatever you want to call it, where the Denver Broncos plays, which is obviously in Denver, Colorado. So, very interesting game. I'm pretty sure this game gets played on September the 11th, which is going to be week 2 of this college football season, and definitely one of the more interesting. I want to say it's an interesting just because you don't get this matchup very often. It's not like you see Texas A&M and Colorado play on a yearly basis. So it's going to be interesting to see these two teams match up in a neutral site in an NFL stadium. So it should be very, very interesting. We all know this is an SEC show. We talk about Texas A&M a lot. They're going to be a good team this year. So I don't really feel like we need to start off with talking about Texas A&M. We could just go through some of the basics. They got a new starter coming in this year, obviously Haynes King. I think that Texas A&M's running back room is obviously one of the best in the country. I made a video comparing their running back room to Georgia's, which are two of the better running back rooms in the nation. Then I look at the offensive line. They're still rebuilding some things over there. I look at the receiving game. There's some underrated guys. I look at Jalen Weidemeyer. Anais Smith is a guy that you don't really see as much as a wide receiver, if like on paper or whatever, but he's a serious pass catcher out of the backfield. He's not technically a wide receiver, but catches the ball a ton. He was the leading receiver last season. And then on top of that, you got like Lane at the wide receiver position. And I think this defense is going to be one of the more consistent defenses in all of the SEC this season. Now, Colorado is what we're really here to talk about because we all kind of have an opinion on Texas A&M, but Colorado is a team that we don't usually get that much national media from. It's not like your Alabamas, your Clemsons, your Georgias. They're a Pac-12 team, and even in the Pac-12, you still have your big boys of like, you're going to say USC, you're going to talk about Oregon, you're going to talk about teams like those when you talk Pac-12 football, even throwing like Washington. They've been a really, really powerful team, but Colorado is a team that you don't hear a lot about. So Colorado last season finished out the season 4-2 and lost to Texas in a bowl game, finished out this season with a bowl loss to Texas, which was a pretty high scoring game for Texas. I'm pretty sure Colorado only put up like 23 points in that game, and I'm pretty sure Texas scored like 55. It was a pretty lopsided win for Texas in that game. Let's start off with talking about Colorado offensively and what they're looking at this season. Colorado offensively, it's a very easy offense to look at if you're basing it off of what happened last year. This team was 87th in the nation in passing last season. This is a very run-heavy and a run-positive offense that you're going to see out of Colorado. I mean, we're going to get into the passing game and everything later, but Jarek Broussard was a guy who really, really broke out last season. He had 895 yards in the 6 games for the Buffs last season to go along with 5 TDs. Now, after that, the depth last season was really, really lacking because I'm pretty sure other than the quarterbacks, the next best rusher had like 23 yards or something for Colorado. So it was a really one-sided, one-dimensional rushing game with Broussard, but there is a but because we do have some big returnees this season. We got Fontenot. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I apologize, Buffalo fans, if I did mispronounce that. But he returns from an injury that he obviously couldn't play last year. He was the leading rusher in 2019, which Buffalo fans are very, very, very excited to have him back and add to this rushing game that is already really, really strong. And then Ashton Clayton, a freshman coming in who Colorado fans are very, very high on, looks to have a big, big season at that 3-headed monster in the backfield. So Colorado's rushing game is definitely going to be their strong suit this season. They bring back 4 of 5 starters on this offensive line. So obviously, the rushing game is going to kind of be the big piece for Colorado going into the season. They got lots to look forward to in the rushing game. But how about the passing game? I said it. This passing game was the 87th best in the nation last season. It wasn't really strong, although you do get your starting QB Sam Neuer back this season. You look at the receiving side of the ball, their leading receivers, Dimitri Staley, and then Levante Chenault, who's obviously the brother of Laviska Chenault, who is Jacksonville. I'm pretty sure he's on Jacksonville. I know he's drafted by Jacksonville, so I'm pretty sure he's still there. He's going to be catching passes from Trevor Lawrence this season. But you look at those two guys alone, they were their 2 leading receivers. You get both of them back. And I know Pac-12, they only played 6 games last season. Colorado only played 5 Pac-12 games. or no, I think they only played 4 because one of those teams was San Diego State, but you got the Arizona State game canceled. I'm pretty sure. I can't remember if that got rescheduled or not, but you play 6 games and your 2 leading receivers combined for only 37 receptions. I think that definitely shows you what this passing game is about and just how run heavy this team actually will be that they were last season. And I hope if you're a Colorado fan, you're definitely hoping that you see this passing game become more effective this season. But will it happen? Right now, if you had to base it off of last season, it is showing signs that you're really going to rely on this rushing game. And that's not a problem because you do have 3 really, really good rushers in the backfield for Colorado this season. Now let's talk about this defense. Star linebacker Nate Landman did go out with an Achilles injury, so you're going to have your second tight end come in and be the big guy on this defense. And I look at Carson Wells, the second leading tackler on this team for the Buffs this season, or last season. He's got to come out and he's going to have even of a bigger season than what he had last season. Because I'm pretty sure he had like 6.5 sacks. He had like over 16 tackle for losses or something like that season. Carson Wells had a very, very good season last year. But with the absence, I don't want to say it's not like written or whatever you want to call it, whatever the metaphor is, that Landman is going to be out for the whole season, but still coming back from injury, you need to have that star guy in Wells really step up if you're still going to have Landman recovering from injury and everything like that. And hopefully you can get Landman healthy somewhere towards the early portion of the season. So you don't want to rush him, but you want to get him back in a decent amount of time. Safety Isaiah Lewis led the team in INTs last season. He had 3 of the 4 team interceptions that the whole team had. Other than that, I really look at this Buff secondary, and that kind of scares me that you only have one guy. They just need other guys who are able to force turnovers, because you saw towards the end of the season, teams started to run up the scoreboard against them. I'm pretty sure they lost to Utah. Utah put up a decent number against them, and then obviously Texas did last season. So secondary is a room for improvement, in my opinion, for the Buffs this season. And then losing Johnson on the defensive line, especially the interior of the defensive line. Now, I do look at a guy like Lang to really, really step up this season. On the outside, he's an edge rusher for the Buffs this season. Get into that backfield, get the quarterback down early, get pressure on the quarterback. So I'm looking for him to have a big season on the outside. So overall, I think this defense has some good pieces. I think that they're definitely stronger in the linebacker game. The secondary, you got some good players there. I still think that there are some spots that you got to work out, but other than that, I think that this defense is still decent. They got to tighten up after giving up 31.6 average points last season out of all 6 of their games. But I think that all around, you got a good rushing game. You got some good linebackers, which is a very important position on the defensive side of the ball. The Buffaloes are going to be a decent team this year. Sorry, I'm from Toronto, and if you know, Toronto's right near Buffalo. So like every time I hear the word Buffaloes or something like that, my mind automatically goes towards the Buffalo Bills. But the Colorado Buffaloes will be a decent team this year. Let's not forget they finished second in their division this year in the Pac-12. Keys for Texas A&M to win this game, because I've already gone through a bit of a rundown about Texas A&M. We all kind of know what the story is for Texas A&M and everything like that, where really strong rushing game. You got a new quarterback. The line's going to be a bit weak. The O-line's going to be something that's going to be gelled together, and you get this team in week 2. What are my keys for Texas A&M this season? I think just stop the run game. I think Colorado's offense is very one-dimensional from what I just showed you. You got a very good defensive line over there in Texas A&M, and I think all you got to do is limit the rush game, and you will hold Colorado to under 20 points. You look at any time that Colorado's leading rusher had under 100 yards rushing, or even near like just over 100 yards, this team was still only scoring 23 points or something like that. So if you could really pinpoint on stopping this rushing game, I think that Texas A&M is going to have a great game. Other than that, one thing I want to talk about is being mindful of the elevation. I'm not saying that this is something that should worry you and keep you up the whole night if you're a Texas A&M player and be like, oh my gosh, we haven't played in this elevation, and what are we going to do? Like, this Mile High Stadium, it's going to be crazy. I say be mindful of it, but don't overreact about it, but don't go in completely blind to it either, because you don't want to be non-cognizant of it and then you realize that it's actually tough to play. And so I think that's something that's going to be interesting for Texas A&M. Definitely an advantage for Colorado because they're used to playing in the elevation. Boulder's still pretty high up as well. So it's going to be interesting there. I just think, like, simple key for the game, get the run game going. You have one of the best running games in all the country. Yes, we still don't know how this offensive line is going to be glued together and everything like that, but I think that this is your game to really put it together. You get a decent Power 5 team, but a team that you could definitely dominate on the offensive line if you want to. So I think Texas A&M, if they're able to really go out and establish a rushing game, it's going to come out with a win in Denver this season. Texas A&M is the better team in this situation. I think Texas A&M is a top 10 team in the country, and not to say that Colorado is a bad team, but I think Texas A&M just out-talents them and everything. I'm going to go my final score prediction for this. I'm going to say 42 to 22. I'll go 42-22 for Texas A&M. Just all depends. Again, if Texas A&M could slow this rushing game down, that score could easily be lower, giving Colorado 22 there. But I think A&M's offense should have a decent day. It's a good game for Haynes King to get going. It's a good game to get Isaiah Spiller and Achane. There's lots of A&M fans who are correcting my pronunciation of Achane the last couple days because I said like Achane or something like that. So Aggie fans, Achane. There you go. I got it for you. And Ananias Smith. And then even get like your Weidermeyer, your Lane, your D-Mass, your guys like that going in the receiving game, and you're going to have a good game for Texas A&M. So that is my final score prediction, 42-22 for Texas A&M.